I'm Kate Murdock. I graduated in 2018. I now work at a venture capital fund called CRV. I recently actually joined from another venture capital fund based in Boston called OpenView Venture Partners, and have spent most of my early career investing in B2B software, mostly in early stage companies, call it seed through Series B. And it's been an awesome experience so far. Honestly, the best part about being an investor is that you get to spend every single day talking to people who are building companies that they're so deeply passionate about that they've dedicated their lives to them. And so for a lot of people, those companies come out of personal experiences. And even in sort of the B2B space, that's still something that's really near and dear to people's hearts. And so for me, it's just really exciting to be able to spend all of my time helping people chase those dreams. And so, there are downsides to that. You can't support everyone. And I think that there's a certain level of heartbreak that comes along with that. But the fact that you get to, be a part of that journey for at least a couple is really exciting. Everything I do from a day-to-day perspective is mostly self-directed. And I think that's true across the venture ecosystem. It's a little bit less true at later stage funds. So my earlier fund or prior fund was more structured, which actually was super helpful to me going to the fund I'm at now. But there's not necessarily someone telling you what to do or how to do it. And so a lot of the day-to-day, I just have to motivate myself constantly. And so I think there's challenges to that. It also makes it fun at the same time. And this is sort of in the broader sense, but I think one of the harder things about investing is you kind of context switch a lot. So maybe, at one point you're talking to someone who's doing something deep in infrastructure, and then, 3 hours later, you're talking to a sales and marketing software business. And so context switching and trying to be able to learn enough to really be both impactful and understand how a company is going to be able to really gain that market share isn't the simplest thing. It's part of what makes it really interesting because I get to learn constantly, but it definitely has its own set of challenges. And then I think in the broadest sense, one of the toughest things is just not being able to work with everyone, and being a person who I think hates to make people unhappy. It definitely is less fun when you have to tell an entrepreneur that maybe the fit isn't right. So that's probably my least favorite part of the job. My job is consistent of sourcing opportunities for partnering with companies. So talking to a lot of early stage companies, seed, Series A, pre-seed, sometimes Series B companies. So I would say in a typical week, I spend probably 70 to 80% of my time just either reaching out to or having conversations with companies that I think are doing something really interesting. And then the other, call it 20 to 30% of the time I spend doing more diligence oriented things. So that would be potentially it's talking to customers that they've introduced us to, or otherwise to really figure out the qualitative aspects of why a company is compelling, and why value prop is compelling. And then also doing more like quantitative diligence. So depending on the stage of the company, I might be spending more time doing quantitative analysis, at looking at cohorts and trying to understand what a company's core metrics look like, and what that might mean for the sustainability of the business on a go-forward basis. So I probably split my time that way. And then, over time that shifts. So at my prior fund, I'd had multiple companies that are now part of the OpenView portfolio. And I spent some more time there doing, portfolio oriented things to support those companies. But being at my new fund at this point in my day-to-day and my week-to-week, I'm not doing any portfolio support, but that will change over time. At Northeastern, I had the opportunity to get pretty involved in the entrepreneurship ecosystem pretty early on. So I joined the Entrepreneurs Club my freshman year and joined the board of that the second semester of my freshman year. And that was a really awesome opportunity because it gave me the chance to understand what it looks like to connect the entrepreneurship ecosystem, startups, whether broadly in Boston or on the Northeastern campus with students who are looking for internships. And so it gave me a little bit of my sort of first taste of what it means to be a part of the broader ecosystem and sort of the individual experience of working in an early stage company. I also had the opportunity to work across a number of different organizations on campus, from Scout to IDEA, first as a venture analyst for IDEA, and then ultimately as the CEO of IDEA. And got exposure to, didn't have as much opportunity to work with Generate and some of the other organizations on campus that support entrepreneurship. So I think overall, there's a huge number of organizations that people can engage with on campus, and luckily I had the chance to work with a number of them. IDEA was a phenomenal experience. I think for me too, starting as a venture analyst, so originally, I guess it was my sophomore year of college or junior year of college, middle year, I guess, working as a venture analyst, I had the opportunity to see a lot of the companies that were coming up at the point where the gap funding, which is, grant capital for entrepreneurs on Northeastern's campus, I got to see them at the point where that would start to be impactful. So maybe they had a product and they were trying to go to market, or maybe they were actually already a product in market and they were looking to expand. And so it was a really, I think, formative space to get to look at by being a venture analyst. And then ultimately as CEO, it was, I think for me, there's a couple aspects of why it became so impactful. One was getting the opportunity to work with 28 extremely dedicated students who just loved entrepreneurship and wanted to support it with all of their free time. And that in and of itself, I think was, just inspiring to be around every day. And it gave me the opportunity to see some of the pitfalls of management. I know I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and learning from those, I think, have helped me today in my career to, at my prior fund, help onboard new associates and understand how to communicate with people and how to think about giving appropriate feedback. So that part was actually really impactful. But also I think in terms of working directly with the entrepreneurs, I was looking at a lot of companies and supporting companies at an accelerator, which I think is the point where, you're taking an idea and you're actually going and figuring out how to build that. And so being a part of both the, call it curriculum side of things with the Ready, Set, and Go curriculum, as well as building out a stage of the program, which now looks a little bit different, for helping companies go and raise capital, was really, I think, formative in seeing how people go from the idea phase to actually launching a business. And for me in my career now, investing, I got a lot of exposure to different businesses, but I also, I think, got firsthand exposure to some of, the challenges that come along with that. And so I think it was a really important thing for me to experience before going and investing in early stage companies. One of the biggest things is focus is important. There's so many resources on Northeastern's campus, so many things that you can engage in. And I do think it's kind of easy to get overwhelmed and think, I have to do everything. Or to think that there's too much stuff to do, I don't know what to do, and to kind of freeze. And so I think I would tell my freshman self to focus, to figure out what I really cared about and put my effort there. I think burnout is a very real thing. And so, finding what you're ultimately passionate about, and that can change in 6 months, that can change in a year, but, dedicating a lot more of my energy towards one thing at a time. I would do that if I could go back in time. I think I also would tell my freshman self to trust myself a little bit more. I think it's easy to sort of feel like everyone else around you is, smarter or better at this thing, or they had this experience, so they're ahead of you in some capacity, or that when you go on co-op for the first time, that it's completely overwhelming and you don't know if you don't know what you don't know, you don't know what you do know. And I think I would definitely just tell my freshman self, like, you will figure it all out. nobody expects you to be perfect. And as long as you continue to take each and every day and learn from it, both the things that you succeeded in and the things that you didn't succeed in, you will grow and you will do just fine after college.